This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by my CRE Accelerator Mastermind, where you'll get access to my step-by-step investment blueprint, essentially a library of resources on how to invest in commercial real estate. You'll get connected to a supportive community of other commercial real estate investors that are doing projects just like you. You'll get personalized coaching and feedback from me every step of the way. Go to www.crecentral.com to learn more. Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast. Today we are live talking with one of my CRE Accelerator students, Natalie Garza, about her experience in commercial real estate and leveraging her experience in construction to make her commercial real estate investments even better. She hails from Odessa, which is actually where the Cobble family is originally from, little known fact. So excited to be diving into this conversation with you today. Natalie, what is going on in your world?
Oh, we're great over here. Yep, we're in Midland-Odessa, and it is a thriving economy over here in Odessa. Everything's busy. People are building buildings, new restaurants, businesses. I mean, it's great over here. I love it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting economy. I mean, it used to be very heavily oil based, and it seems like that is probably still the case a little bit today, but starting to change. And obviously, the United States is a little more secure in its oil, which is pretty great.
hmm
But talk to us about getting started in construction, because one of the questions that I get asked all the time is, Tyler, what side of the business, if I want to be a commercial real estate developer, if I want to be a commercial real estate investor, what side of the industry should I get started on? And construction is obviously a very good route. So talk to us about getting started in the construction world.
Yep, exactly. So I myself started flipping homes in Dallas, Texas. And so I gained my construction experience there. My husband started a residential construction company in 2017. And so he started doing small remodels and then home additions and then new builds. And so when we got together and put our construction experience together, I said, why aren't you doing commercial projects out here in Midland and Odessa? And so we started doing that several years ago. And from that, we've learned so much. And we have a lot of clients who are investors, and they're very open with us on their profit margins and how things are going out here with them. And so it got us excited, and we thought, why don't we do the same thing? Because if they can do it, we can figure it out too.
That's right. And yeah, as a contractor, obviously you're getting paid to go out and price these jobs for these investors. And typically they're willing to share the numbers, right? I mean, as a
For
contractor, you
sure.
say, well, here's how much they paid for the land. Here's how much they're paying us to build the building. Oh my gosh, they're selling it for that.
Right.
You start to really realize, like, oh, maybe I should start looking on the other side. So talk to us about the transition from residential to commercial, because they're the same coin, but two very different
Right.
sides.
Yep. So for us, we ultimately decided to do commercial because that was our end goal. That's where we wanted to go as investors. And also, it was a little bit easier on the business side to work with professional business owners, corporations, franchises than it was to work with homeowners. There's a
Yeah.
lot more emotion that goes into somebody's personal home when you're doing a remodel or new build for them versus building, a Domino's pizza franchise for a client where it's maybe their 10th franchise and it's all business, right? It's like, let's get it done. This is the price. These are the standards. These are the codes. Like, match that. You're done. Everything's fine. There's not a lot of emotion that goes into it. There's not a lot of other things that come. It's very straightforward. Okay. It's very straightforward. And I feel like it's easier to make more money in commercial personally. Our business has grown exponentially since we decided to make the move to commercial. And what we focus on is tenant build out, tenant improvement, a lot of restaurant franchises. We do a lot of remodels for things like banks or medical offices, and we do a lot of ground up industrial construction as well. So things like warehouses.
Yeah, and everybody loves warehouses right now. I mean,
Yes.
flex space is definitely all the rage. So we're gonna be diving into that. You guys won't believe what they are building these warehouses for. It's gonna make you probably want to get started in construction, but we will get to that here in a little bit. Talk to us about your experience in house flipping and how that, like, how did that help you start the leap into commercial real estate?
So, I was managing an oil field logistics company before I started flipping houses. I bought one duplex to buy and hold. And when somebody came to me with an offer of what they wanted to pay for it, it was like 300,000 over, you know, over what I had paid. And so I was like, oh, this is a no brainer. I'm just going to sell it and take my money. And so after that, I flipped several more houses over the next 2 years. And I learned a lot about construction budgets. Okay, first of all, budgeting, the type of contractors that you use, the different subs that you can use, and quality of work. Right. That was definitely trial and error for me because I had never done that before. I just kind of like jumped into it and figured it out along with, help from different people that were in that industry. But I learned a lot about quality of work, budgeting, expenses, and that if you can find the right deal, you can make really great money if you can get your budget to a right number. Numbers matter. That's another thing, is that the numbers don't lie. You can't go based off emotion. If you just follow, the spreadsheet and you have your input and the numbers and you talk to your realtor and your lender and everything is adding up, it's a good deal. But if you just go based off of, oh, I think I like this neighborhood and I think it'll sell for a lot, it's never going to end well. And that's
Yeah,
something I learned from experience.
that's right. Sometimes it's good to follow your gut, but you might want to double check it with the actual math. So talk to us. What are the metrics by which you govern your entire investment strategy? Like, what are you looking for? Is it traffic counts? Is it a price per square foot of the dirt? Is it a price per acre? Like, what are you looking at when you're going into these investments?
So when we're looking for investments for ourselves, commercial properties, we want value add. We want warehouse areas, okay, whether it's land or an existing warehouse that's in an industrial area. And being here in Midland and Odessa, I mean, 90% of the commercial space is for oil and gas companies, right? And so you want to stay in those areas because other companies are attracted to the same areas. They want to be around where everyone else is. And the square footage price to lease is really high. And so if we can get ourselves in an oil and gas centralized area, um, somewhere that there's more than just a couple industrial spaces, then and there's value add, we know that we're going to make out all right at the end because of those things.
So I want to actually dive into Odessa Midland a little bit more because you've had experience in a primary market with Dallas Fort Worth. I mean, that is about as big of a market as it gets in the United States. Going to Midland, Odessa, which is, I mean, very much so a tertiary market, very small, but it can be incredibly lucrative sometimes to go find, these
Mhm.
smaller towns. You've got less competition. Talk to us about the differences between those two markets and why you like Midland, Odessa more.
For sure. So, I mean, Dallas Fort Worth area is massive, right? And you could probably find the any size of warehouse that you're looking for out there. I think there's plenty of them. There must be an abundance, especially in the growing areas. So for Midland and Odessa, you only have so much space because a lot of land out here is lease land where they have drilling going on or things existing pumps on, so you can't really build on those at that time. So there's only so much land, and there's thousands of companies fighting for warehouse space. There's companies that can't move here yet because they haven't found warehouse space. I actually just heard a friend of mine say that one of the larger oil companies here is looking for a 50,000 square foot warehouse and they haven't been able to find one. And these people would probably pay a big price for this if they could find it, but it's just not available yet. And so people can't build it fast enough. So because there's not, hundreds of them available for lease, it's the demand, right? The demand goes up and so the price goes up. And so it's a great market to be in for that specifically.
That's right. So are you seeing a lot of smaller local tenants that are renting warehouse space in this market, or is it more of the bigger guys, national,
Well,
regional?
I honestly, from my experience, I would say 50-50. Also based on the clients that we have, the calls that we get into our commercial construction company. There's a lot of local businesses that might not be oil and gas directly, but they might be a service company for them, or they are a plumbing contractor or HVAC contractor. we have a friend who's a landscaper, and he's looking for a space that's 10,000 square foot, but he wants a really nice updated office front for his clients to come in because he services a lot of residential. So it's more than just your oil and gas clients for this area.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so you've got a pretty big closing coming up on Monday. This is actually a deal that we reviewed on one of our mastermind calls. Really excited to see this one come to fruition because, just like every commercial real estate deal, it's had its ups and downs along the way.
Yep.
But hey, we're about to cross the finish line. So talk to us about this project because, was it on market? Was it off market? How did you guys find it? Let's start there.
Yep. So we had been looking at land a little bit more seriously ever since I had a first initial conversation with you and decided, hey, like, let's make this happen. And I felt more confident with your help that you could help us analyze these deals and we wouldn't make a bad choice. So we were looking at land, and new things pop up every day. And so we saw this property. It's 1.1 acres. It was in an industrial area. It had an existing warehouse that was value add for sure, and it was listed at 400,000, and it had just come up that day. And so we went to go look at it right away, and we put an offer on it same day. And we were really worried that they wouldn't accept it because we've been putting offers on so many different properties that we thought were a good value add area, and they already had several offers in, so we didn't have any luck yet. So we waited for several days, and they finally got back to us and said that they accepted our offer. We were, for as an example, we were looking at 2 acres of land in a different part of Midland-Odessa, and that was going to cost us 250,000 just for that. So each acre, so about 500,000 total. And so the fact that we found this one and that had an existing building, all the utilities were already there for 400 was a steal for us because we saw the potential in the space there. We can add 2 more warehouses on it, owner occupy the existing one, lease the other 2 out, and cash flow pretty well on that.
Yeah. That is the amazing thing about having you like being focused in commercial real estate and knowing exactly what you're going for because so many people would be terrified of showing up and making an offer same day, but you guys knew exactly what you wanted and it checked
Yeah.
all of those boxes. How big is the building that sits on the 1.1 acres?
The existing one is 3,500 square feet.
So, even if you're just buying it for that building, you're barely over $100 a foot. Like that is, it's a
Yes.
great deal,
For sure.
right? So, talk to us about this. Was the thing that blew my mind when we because when we were reviewing this deal,
Yeah.
of course, we go through the construction costs of adding all of these other buildings, and I'm looking at this. I'm like, Natalie, this looks like a 200% IRR. It was something
Yeah.
just insane that I hadn't seen before. I was like, this can't be right. But talk to us about the construction side of things because it makes the deal insane.
hmm So we've built several warehouses for clients. We're currently building about 18,000 square feet for a client right now. We're almost finished with it. And so we know exactly what it cost us to build these warehouses. And we have great relationships with our subs because we use the same subs over and over again. And we get really good pricing. And so we knew our cost going into it and what we could build. And so after doing the math, actually, I do want to say you made a good point when I had brought it up to you, like, we could do it for this price. And you said, well, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I was like, okay, good point. Like, let me add some cushion in there with our construction loan with our lender. And so right now we're sitting at about $40 a square foot with the build price for the 2 additional warehouses. They're 4,000 square foot each. So it's 8,000 square feet total.
That's great. Yeah, because when Natalie originally brought this deal to the table, they were at about half that price, and I was like, well, hey, you still need to bake in profit and overhead. You're going to hire your own construction company because the way that I like to set these up, and that's the way that we're setting this up, is you're buying this in a separate entity, right? So that entity is going to hire the construction firm to come in and do all this work for you. So I think it's such a great way to set that up. So we originally were going to approach this deal and you were going to start the construction immediately. And then, the bank came back and they decided they wanted to structure it in a different way. So talk to us about that.
Yep, absolutely. So at first we were like, okay, let's get the property and the construction loan all at the same time. Let's go forward with that. The bank came back a couple weeks before closing and said, hey, let's structure it this way. Let's buy the property by itself first. And then after the first of the year, let's get you the construction loan for the sake of closing on time, interest rates. I feel like this would be a better fit for you. We talked about it. I think I brought it up with you before I agreed with the bank. And I was like, okay, all right, that sounds good. Let's go ahead and do that. So, what we're going to do right now is just purchase the existing property with a small $50,000 rehab loan on that building, just so that we can make it our own. It has a couple exterior things that need to get fixed and bay doors that could get replaced. So, we're just doing that for the sake of us occupying it, wanting it to look a little bit more fresh. And then in the first of the year, we will go back to the bank and we'll do the additional 300,000 to do the two other warehouses for our construction loan.
Yeah, it's always fun when the bank just drops a curveball on you
Yeah,
a couple weeks before closing, isn't it? I mean, the
exactly.
good thing is, taking that owner occupied approach. Here's the thing: banks love owner occupied real estate because it's just more secure for them. It doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily have to fall into any specific bucket, which means that they get to pretty much lend out as much of that money as they can possibly find. So incredibly, it's a great strategy, incredibly important for banks. Natalie, we've got a question from
Yes.
Sohai saying, when you build warehouses, do you have just one design for everyone, or every warehouse is custom for every client? So what's your approach
Mhm.
there?
Yep, good question. So the warehouses out here essentially all follow the same build. The front of the warehouse, between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet, is generally where their office spaces, bathrooms, break room, and the rest is all warehouse space. But where it differs is if we're building it to suit for a specific client, sometimes they want more office space. So we always have a different set of plans for every single build that we do, regardless. Just also because it depends on like the plot of land that it's going on. I mean, yeah, every warehouse that we do has its own specific architectural and MEP plans, just so that it's specific for them. But in general, they do follow the same layout, so to speak.
That's right. Yeah, they're pretty rinse, wash, and repeat, but
Very.
there's going to be little things that you have to account for when maybe there's a slight slope on one property
Mm,
compared to another, or maybe a different type of soil. There's all sorts of different things there.
right.
Okay, so you're building these warehouses for $40 a square foot. What would something like that rent for in Odessa?
Okay, so in this area, this small little area that we are buying in specifically, the rents are between $13 to $21 a square foot. And the difference in that is how updated it is and how much yard space there is, so to speak. Like how much area do they have to park vehicles and equipment and materials. So with us, when I analyzed our deal with you, I think we did like 14 or $15 a square foot to be on the low end because it's something that we want to get leased out quite quickly. But if we wanted to make, it's a more trendy looking warehouse or the office is a little bit more high end, you could probably get it for up to 18, 19, $20 a square foot. If you wanted to, you could.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, that I love that strategy because it's like, hey, why even have this space sit vacant? Let's just get it filled. We can always raise rents later, and worry about it at another time. But I mean, gosh, you don't have to be a math major to run that math and say, well, you're basically renting it for 25% of your total construction costs. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a really great deal. I feel super lucky that we found it, and it also makes a huge difference that we're able to do the construction ourselves, manage it ourselves. We have subs and vendors that have good pricing with us, and so that's what makes it such a great opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, going through this process, obviously you've got the construction experience, you have the residential flipping experience. What's been the biggest surprise to you?
Ooh, well, I will say owning a construction business in itself is a everyday surprise. Okay, it's not
Yeah, I bet.
an easy feat. But I will remember the first time one of our really good clients of ours, we did a warehouse for him, and then We did the build out, meaning we did, the HVAC, electrical, put up the walls, the offices, the bathrooms afterwards, once he found a tenant. And when he told us that he was renting this warehouse out for $25,000 a month and his debt service on it was like $12,000, I was like, wait a minute. Why are we not doing this? Why are we not in this space yet? So it's exciting that people are out there making, that amount of money just on one building.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I get people asking me all the time, they'll hop on a call with me and they're like, is it reasonable for me to expect $10,000 a month or $5,000 a month in passive income? I'm like, man, you could do that on one deal.
Yeah.
You could do that on one single deal.
And I would like to add that when I started flipping houses, I read all the books, listened to all the podcasts. That's all I did for 12 hours a day for about a year. Okay. So I was very much into the mindset of like, I got to buy 20 duplexes or fourplexes, and this is what I got to do to make X amount of money. But then when I started looking at, wait a minute, what if I had, a 40 unit apartment, or what if I bought one warehouse that had 3 tenants in it? I could make the same amount of money that it would take 20 duplexes in one really good commercial deal. And so where my mindset is right now is like, I feel like commercial is doing less work. You're working a little bit smarter if you're able to. You also have to have the taste for that, right? Like not everything is for everybody, to each their own. But for me personally, and my experience, and because I have a construction company, it's so much easier for us to go into commercial space and make money versus buying up a bunch of single family rental houses.
That's right. Can you imagine having to do 20 times the work to basically get the same output?
Yeah. No, thank you. But there's people in that space that do great with it and they thrive, and that's exciting for them. And I love that for them. But just for me personally, the commercial is what works for me.
That's right. We love that for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll leave it to them. Natalie, well, I would imagine there's a lot of people listening to this podcast right now, and they're going, oh my gosh, $40 a foot. If I could find a way to build that, I could crush it in my market. Obviously, you're in Texas. How far are you willing to travel? If somebody wants to get a hold of you to build a warehouse for them, how do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to our website. It's luxury dash, like the hyphen, enterprises, which is plural.com. So luxury-enterprises.com. You can call the office number on there. Nicole will answer. She'll take a message and we'll call you back right away. We love to help people. My husband is really great at construction. He loves researching other markets, and we love to help people because we've also been in a position where we didn't know anything. We don't know any better, and we didn't have anyone to turn to. So if people just want to call and ask for questions, advice, input, much like yourself, Tyler, you're really great at that as well. We just love to be a resource and help people. We would absolutely love to go build warehouses for you anywhere. Where there is a will, there's a way. Okay. And we can figure it out and we'll make it happen for somebody.
Yeah, better be careful. Be careful what you wish for. You might become a national company.
Yeah. Texas is ideal. It's pretty easy to travel anywhere in Texas. It's a huge state. But if you're in West Texas, Central Texas, it's a little bit more feasible. But like I said, where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Natalie, this has been such a great conversation. I can't wait to hear the news. Get the text on Monday once you've closed. And then y'all stay tuned because once they've closed on the property and they've built it after phase 2, we're going to do a story of the deal on that property. It's going to be a lot of fun. Natalie, awesome. Thanks for joining us. Thank you guys for listening. Go to luxury-enterprises.com to learn more about what Natalie and her team are doing. And we'll see you guys in the next one. This episode of the Commercial Real Estate Investor Podcast is brought to you by my CRE Accelerator Mastermind, where you'll get access to my step-by-step investment blueprint, essentially a library of resources on how to invest in commercial real estate. You'll get connected to a supportive community of other commercial real estate investors that are doing projects just like you. You'll get personalized coaching and feedback from me every step of the way. Go to www.crecentral.com to learn more.